just so you're aware, so I used to be, so as before being state representative for this area, I was county commissioner for Precinct 3, which included everything outside of the city limits of El Paso, to include virtually all of the jurisdiction of ESD2. That's why me, along with my staff, are very familiar with these areas and with much of the fire safety issues that exist, but also much of the water issues that exist in these areas. There's been a lot of warehouse and logistics development in the eastern part of the county over the last several years. But what has happened is that, a lot of the infrastructure and a lot of this development has moved faster than the infrastructure underneath, particularly the water infrastructure. So fire suppression systems, fire emergency systems, sprinkler systems depend entirely on water pressure and capacity. Fire hydrants, internal sprinkler systems, and emergency response operations all require sufficient pressure under real emergency conditions, not just ideal ones. So if the water pressure isn't there when it's needed most, then these systems fail. These risks exist for any large industrial facility, but if a facility is used to house or detain people, then it changes completely. When human lives are involved, there is no margin for error. Fire suppression systems are only as effective as the infrastructure behind them. That is why I'm raising this issue right now. Our region doesn't have to imagine what can happen when people are confined in warehouse-type facilities without adequate fire safety systems. Nearly 3 years ago, our sister city, Ciudad Juarez, experienced a devastating fire at a migrant detention facility housed inside an industrial structure. Over 40 lives were lost, many were injured, and that tragedy put it painfully clear that the consequences of inadequate fire suppression, put clear the consequences of inadequate fire suppression and emergency preparedness. Closer to home, recent deaths at a federal detention facility in El Paso County have raised serious concerns about safety and oversight when individuals are placed in federal custody. These are regional lessons, and the responsible course of action is to learn from them before another facility opens. So earlier this morning, I sent a formal letter to the commissioners of the Emergency Services District 2 with copies provided to the El Paso County Commissioners Court and to the county attorney. In that letter, I'm urging ESD2 to withhold any required fire or occupancy permits unless there is clear, verifiable proof that sufficient water pressure and fire suppression capacity exist to protect human life. Ultimately, this is about accountability. The infrastructure and safety must come first. The permits should follow proof, not assumptions. Again, this is not a political determination where we're trying to stop this facility just out of principle. Though I disagree with these facilities, but somebody within DHS simply didn't do their homework. DHS has billions of dollars from the big ugly bill that was passed at the federal government that the president signed into law, and it's my opinion that they are rushing into facilities like this without doing due diligence. I do believe that there was somebody at DHS who just didn't do their homework when they looked at this facility. They just saw a large warehouse. They saw it was big enough. They saw it was in this area that they needed it, but they didn't do their due diligence in terms of looking at the water issues that have existed in this area for some time. So that's why I'm very pleased to have here Chief Roger Esparza. His team are going to conduct a thorough independent evaluation of this facility's fire suppression, the readiness, and water pressure capacity and emergency response conditions. I just want you, I will let Chief Esparza talk about the specific water issues in this particular area, but he has been raising concerns already about this area because with the industrial growth that we have seen, there have been a lot of facilities that have popped up, and the water pressure is critically low, that many of these facilities don't have the pressure necessary to operate emergency fire sprinkler and suppression systems. So again, when you're talking about a facility that has the potential to house thousands of detainees, it raises the stakes significantly. And so the chief can talk about this, but this is something that he has been raising for some time. And when it comes to this particular facility, nobody has contacted the chief. Nobody contacted the Emergency Services Department. Nobody contacted the city of Socorro. Again, somebody just purchased this facility without doing any sort of due diligence when it came to this very serious emergency situation and the fire suppression systems. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to Chief Esparza. Again, he's a 17-year veteran as chief here with the Emergency Services District and has very intimate knowledge about the water infrastructure in this area and how it affects preparedness, emergency preparedness, when responding to fire emergencies in the area. Chief, thank you so much for joining us.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me. Just want to address a couple of things that the state representative brought up, is that in those areas we are seeing a little bit of a drop in pressure when the new facilities are coming up. Getting a lot of phone calls to our office that they don't pass inspection on the sprinkler system due to the lack of potential pressure on the water system. So as we continue to add more people, more facilities, then it's concerning to us, and I've been saying this for a couple of years already. I don't know exactly which facility was purchased, but I know that the facilities that we did have a permit for the shell of it, but at the end, it's the end user that has to modify it for its intended use. So with that going said, is we have not seen any permits. My office is getting calls for why are we allowing this, and we don't know exactly what we're allowing because we don't have any permits coming yet. Any questions for?
So I do have a question. In that area, I believe it's the Lower Valley Water District that's in charge of the water source in that area that we're speaking about. Have you spoken with the Lower Valley Water District about this issue?
We have.
What was that conversation like?
They just need more growth in their above ground tanks, and they need to analyze that.
So with the Lower Valley Water District, the water for that area isn't sufficient?
Right now, it's not. Based on what I've been seeing from the subdivision that's going up on Nuevo Hueco tanks area, all those warehouses that are there, those are the ones that are already struggling. So they're all looped into one, and there's different lines that come in, but those could be potential problems. So the more growth we see, the more problems we're going to see.
Chief, I guess one question then
yes,
is, has there been any discussion about how it was allowed to have those properties built there, and then also what kind of pressure system is needed in order to service buildings like that?
So anybody can build a facility that big because they're empty. So we can't tell them what they need because we don't know what's going in there. Now, from what I'm hearing, that's going to be an institutional facility that's going to house, in other words, I'm going to say it like this, they're immigrants, right? But they're going to be detained without free will. So it's considered an institutional facility. The facility must be sprinklered to meet the requirements of an institutional facility.
At this point, do you believe that even the sprinkler system would be enough to handle any kind of emergency situation?
Well, right now we don't even know which facility it is, so I can tell you with certainty that what it has in it.
So can they move forward with any developments without the permits right now? You mentioned nothing has been turned in, so what goes on from
So
there?
we have the permit for the building. Whoever built the building built a shell, and that shell only. There's nothing in it. So we can't determine what's going to go in there until the tenant that's going to end up using it submits for what he's trying to modify.
And I'm so sorry, but it was built last year?
I don't know which building it is.
Sorry. Okay.
So, or else
So for the permit that you do
Yes.
have, do you know when it was filed?
depends on which building it is.
Okay.
Chief, so with all this industrial growth, you guys mentioned how fast it's been developing, but the infrastructure hasn't. I don't know if you can give a brief estimate, but how long would it take to bring up the infrastructure up to speed to the growth we're seeing?
That is out of our control as the fire department, and I've said that already at Commissioner's Court. I'm saying that here right now. We're the fire department. We respond to all emergencies, but we do not handle the water system, sir.
Well, can I ask how long does the permitting and inspection process typically take for a project of this size?
For them to get it?
Yes.
For a shell, it's fairly simple because there's really nothing to look inside, and it's mostly concrete. It's when they go modify the inside for their end use that it'll take a little bit longer for us to verify what the end use will be. It could take upwards of a couple of months, 6 months maybe.
So this may be a question for Representative Perez. Representative Perez, considering the parameters of a permit like that, do you sense that?
So our intent and my intent, and the reason why I sent this letter with urgency is because now is the time to act. And this is what I conveyed to the chief. If the federal government is the tenant here or the property owner, and they're going to convert it into a detention facility, then we can't wait for them to start building the interior before we start raising objections. So my intent with this letter was to just raise concerns, and so to make sure that everybody's on the same page. When we spoke to Chief Esparza, clearly nobody has told the chief even about this facility. I mean, so what does that tell you about how hasty this decision was made on the federal government's part? So my intention was to inform the authorities that be, individuals like Chief Esparza, who are very familiar with the risks in this area, the ESD commissioners, who also serve and oversee the emergency services district for this area. I also wanted to put on notice the county commissioners court and the county attorney, because they are going to have to start looking into this to see any and all action that could be taken. If the federal government, DHS, decides to be difficult, as we have seen that they try to bully their way and build these facilities, we are looking at a very serious, life-threatening situation should something go wrong. And so we just need to make sure that all of the safety mechanisms are in place and that there is accountability. So again, that was really our intent, was just to raise the alarm bells now before it's too late, before they start constructing more elements of this facility, so that the ESD, if necessary, need to take legal action, they can do so. If the county or the county attorney, has the jurisdiction to take legal action, they can do so. Also, the city of Socorro, this is within their jurisdiction. So I suspect there are many people that that have the potential to have their hands involved in this moving forward. This was just intended to raise the awareness immediately and bring everybody up to speed on this fire hazard that exists.
So Representative Perez, I mean, it very much sounds that you feel that this is exactly going to be where DHS is going to have this large detention facility. I mean, do you just know it? Or?
Well, again, so this is, the information that we're going off of is based on publicly available information. It's based on records that have been filed with the county clerk's office. And the Department of Homeland Security it appears to be purchasing this facility, and again, that's according to information. The federal government, as we have seen, have not been very good partners with other jurisdictions, throughout the country. We have seen in Minnesota and Minneapolis, what's happened there. So they're not talking to anybody. So that's why we just have to go off of this information that we discover, and it's through our own cooperation that we're going to have to do all that we can to again ensure that all the safety and protocols and permits are in place. But again, as the former commissioner for that area, I can just tell you that, and again, as the chief can tell you too, it's just the water pressure there. As he was saying, there have been other issues where he has been in meetings, where the water line just currently, it wasn't intended to house large facilities like this. And as the growth has grown, even here, and put it this way, even here in the city of El Paso, you were seeing just how much investment is needed to keep up with the infrastructure and the billions of dollars that have to go into underground infrastructure within the city of El Paso. And that's when you have an entity like the PSB that has significantly more resources than someone like Lower Valley Water District. So again, it's just water infrastructure is just a challenge, especially with all the growth that has gone eastward. But again, so it's just it doesn't take a lot. Again, I just feel that somebody at DHS just didn't do their due diligence in looking at this particular facility and the water should be
for the chief. Talk about, you said a shell, right?
Yes, sir.
Empty. Talk about the buildings that are full, like Amazon, and there's a lot of people in there, a lot of flammable stuff. Are they in danger?
I'm not aware of the Amazon because it's not in my jurisdiction, sir. But I can tell you that that's fully sprinklered, and the people are minimal because it's mostly robotics in there.
What about the supporting warehouses around Socorro that support Amazon?
A lot of them are very minimal to no people, and that's where we have to go by. So different requirements for different uses.
But that being said, you don't know what's going to happen moving forward anyways, right?
I don't know which facility we're looking at. I don't know what their intent is. All I know is that the Department of Homeland Security has purchased a building, but we don't. That's all I know.
Chief, I'm not sure if you can answer this, but how does it start affecting residents in that area when these large warehouses start affecting the water pressure? Not sure if you can.
Well, a lot of times they'll start to see a little bit of a drop while in construction, and if there's a water main break in the areas, and they'll start to see discolored water, things like that. We'll start getting phone calls, but it's going to happen a little bit. So as we use water for consumers, there is that water for them. But we're talking here, we're trying to figure out if there's enough water for the fire suppression side of it. That's a little bit different.
For Representative Perez, and you kind of somewhat alluded to it, but you talk about raising the alarm so the local powers that be can start seeing what they can do. How feasible do you find it for the city of Socorro to do something similar to what the city of El Paso just did, but blocking from any type of detention facilities like that being developed, as you guys trying to get ahead of this?
Well, I mean, unfortunately, this purchase was made, and see what's happened in the city of El Paso is oftentimes these purchases are made before the zoning is in place. So it's very difficult for cities. So city of Socorro and El Paso have very close, almost identical power and jurisdiction over these types of issues. But if there was a purchase before certain development policies were put in place, they can't retroactively create a policy to stop it from going. They can certainly do something moving forward because, I mean, it's, again, these are water issues that exist, throughout their service area in the emergency services district, and that's the whole purpose of zoning, is that you don't want, a facility come in that is completely unfeasible or incompatible with things like water shortages in the area. And so, yes, no, certainly I think the city can do something moving forward, but again, it won't really help this situation where, the federal government seems to have already acquired the property under existing zoning rules and development.
Have you spoken with the city of Socorro and any officials regarding this issue?
I haven't. My staff was working on this issue this week. Once we became aware of it and we confirmed with Chief Esparza that these fire issues and safety concerns do exist in this area, we decided to send this letter to the ESDs and to make sure everybody can look into it from there. But again, just from my initial conversations with Chief Esparza, that did confirm at least our initial concerns with this area and it not being able to already support the infrastructure that currently exists, which is just mainly empty buildings. This is a whole different type of project where you're looking at, the possibility of having thousands of people not only detained under one roof, but when you're talking about a detention facility, as the former county commissioner, I can tell you whenever we dealt with the county jail, you're dealing with people in very tough conditions where you could have somebody that might try to intentionally start a fire. There's just significantly more risks when you're putting not only people under one roof, but you're putting detainees in very harsh conditions that exponentially increases the danger of this facility.
Now, Representative Perez, can you just kind of detail what the process ought to look like if the federal government were to go through permitting?
Well, I mean, yes. I mean, there would be, at the very minimum, look, Chief Esparza can tell you he has worked in other federal facilities before. When the Border Patrol built its large facility in the Clint area, he was there from the very beginning of the project. And so that project conformed with all sorts of safety needs, and that is the correct way to do it. Again, in this particular circumstance where you have the federal government that just isn't collaborating in any way, these are the, I think, big oversights that are going to happen. And I think somebody within DHS really dropped the ball. They didn't do their homework. And there's a very serious fire safety concern that somebody really overlooked. Again, Chief Esparza is going to, whenever, you see, the thing is that now, they might not even submit a permit. And that's another reason why I'm raising this issue. As we have seen in other jurisdictions, the federal government just comes in and bullies other jurisdictions. If that's the case, then whether it be the Emergency Services Department or the city or the county, be prepared for a sort of legal battle that might ensue. Again, they need to prepare for that. So that was my intent, was just to put this out there. And Chief Esparza informed me that this item is going to be on the agenda on February 17th. And with the Emergency Services District, and really that's all that we can ask, is that everybody's just doing their due diligence to ensure that if there is if what I'm saying is true, or that there's insufficient fire suppression systems and there's insufficient water pressure for this, well then there needs to be appropriate action to ensure that we're not going to be endangering the lives of thousands of people, when with the construction of such a facility.
Are there any legislative actions you're considering if these concerns are not addressed?
Well, certainly, I mean, yes, I think that, before this legislative session started, we didn't have all of this construction in unincorporated territory within city jurisdictions. So, yes, I think the state needs to be better prepared, for these types of facilities so that we don't have circumstances like this. But I think that's something that we're going to certainly be studying moving forward and prepare for the next legislative session that starts in January 2027.
And Chief, that meeting on the 17th, is that Commissioner's Court or is that City of Socorro?
No, that is the commissioners for the Emergency Services District number 2.
Are those public meetings?
They are, sir.
Thank you all so much.
And just so you all know, so the structure of the ESD, so the Emergency Services District serves the area outside the city limits of El Paso. So, a lot of people, when they buy houses on East Lake and they call 911, it's not the El Paso Fire Department that comes to help them out, it's the Emergency Services District. And so it also serves the city of Socorro, San Elizario, and Clint. And so anytime that there's a fire emergency there, they are responsible for it. The Emergency Services District has a board of commissioners. The Commissioners Court appoints those board of commissioners, and those commissioners appoint the fire chief, which is where we have fire. But just so you all know, that's sort of the structure. They have their own separate tax rate specific to providing these fire services for ESD2.
Do we know the location of these structures that were purchased?
Yes. It's I can give you all the exact address, but again, based off of public records, it's within the city limits of Socorro, but near the Clint exit.
You know where?
Yeah,
Are you going?
I've already, also,
You done?
yes, thank you.
Okay, great. We'll take any questions. If y'all have any other questions, we'll happy to do one-on-ones.
Chief,
Yeah,
can we
so-
get you in Spanish 101?
Sure.
So this is,
Um,